Hey everyone, and a big welcome to all you Pakistan Studies students out there. We're about to jump into a really crucial decade. I'm talking about 1906 to 1916. You see, this was a time when the entire map of Muslim politics in India was basically redrawn. It's an incredible story, so let's get right into it. So here's the big question we're tackling today. How on earth did just 4 events in only 10 years completely redefine the political future for Muslims in British India? It's like a chain reaction, you know. We're going to connect the dots and see how each event triggered the next, setting the stage for everything that came after.
All right, let's dive right into it. Picture this. It's the early 1900s. The big player on the political scene is the Indian National Congress. But, and this is a big but, a lot of Muslim leaders were starting to feel, ignored. They felt like their community's specific needs and interests were just getting lost in the shuffle. It became pretty clear that if they wanted their voices to be heard, they needed their own platform.
And that brings us to the roadmap for our journey today. I want you to think of these 4 key events like dominoes, okay? First, you've got the creation of the All India Muslim League in 1906. Then, a few years later, the Morley Minto Reforms. Then comes a huge shock, the reversal of the Partition of Bengal, and it all culminates in the famous Lucknow Pact of 1916. See? One domino knocking over the next. It's a fantastic story of cause and effect.
Okay, so let's knock over that first domino. We're in 1906, and the All India Muslim League is born. Now, this wasn't just another political group. No way. This was an absolute game changer. For the very first time, there was a political party in India with one single mission: to protect the rights and the future of the Muslim community.
So, why was it formed? What was the thinking behind it? Well, a few things. First, obviously, to protect Muslim political rights. They also wanted to promote loyalty to the British government. That was a key strategy at the time. And of course, they needed to push back against the growing power of the Indian National Congress. But the real spark, the thing that really lit the fire, it was the massive Hindu-led protests against the Partition of Bengal back in 1905. That whole episode was a wake-up call, making it crystal clear that without their own unified voice, they just wouldn't survive politically.
All right, so the League is formed. But the next few years? Man, it was a total political roller coaster. Just when they were starting to get some traction, they scored this massive win, only to be hit with an even bigger, more painful setback. This whole push and pull between 1909 and 1911, it turned out to be an absolutely critical turning point.
And this right here, this shows you that roller coaster perfectly. It's a tale of 2 policies. On one side, the gain, the Morley Minto Reforms of 1909. This was huge. The British basically acknowledged the idea of separate electorates. This meant Muslims got guaranteed seats, their own representatives. A major political victory. But then, the loss. Just 2 years later, in 1911, the British completely caved to intense Hindu protests and reversed the Partition of Bengal. That feeling of betrayal, it was just massive. It proved that British support could vanish in a second, and it totally overshadowed that earlier win.
And listen to this quote, because it just nails the feeling at the time. It affected the Muslims greatly, whose feelings of loyalty had been taken for granted. You see, that's the key. They felt their loyalty was just assumed, that it didn't count for anything. The reversal was a massive wake-up call. It drove home the point that loyalty to the British was absolutely not a guarantee of support. And that sense of betrayal, it sparked a brand new resolve to get organized and rely on themselves.
So where does this all lead? Well, it leads us straight to our final domino, the Lucknow Pact of 1916. And I want to be really clear about this. This was not some random thing that just happened. It was a smart, calculated, strategic move. It was a direct result of the painful lesson they learned in 1911. After being so badly let down by the British, the Muslim League knew they had to change their entire game plan.
And the logic behind this new strategy was just crystal clear. Let's walk through it. Step 1, the big realization. British support, it's unreliable. It can be taken away whenever they're under pressure. Okay. Step 2, acknowledge the obvious. The Indian National Congress is a very powerful force. You can't ignore them. Step 3, leadership. This is where Muhammad Ali Jinnah's incredible political skill comes in. He becomes the key figure, the bridge builder. And all of that leads to the final strategy, step 4. A united Hindu-Muslim front is the only way to effectively pressure the British for self-government. See how that works? It's a complete pivot from relying on the British to partnering with Congress. Super pragmatic.
So what was actually in this historic pact? Well,
This is the really interesting part. For the very first time ever, the Indian National Congress agreed to the principle of separate electorates for Muslims. I mean, that was a massive concession from them. In return, the Muslim League and Congress stood shoulder to shoulder and put forth joint demands for self-government to the British. This was the first formal agreement between the two parties, a truly landmark moment, and it cemented Jinnah's reputation as a key leader, a true bridge builder.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture. When you look at this whole decade, from 1906 to 1916, you see this incredibly clear, dramatic story unfold. It's not just a list of dates and events, it's a profound political evolution, a complete transformation.
So if there's one thing you take away from this, let it be this. In just 10 short years, the entire strategy of the Muslim League did a complete 180. They went from a position of seeking protection from the British to standing up and demanding a political partnership as equals right alongside Congress. That's the journey.
And I'll leave you with a final question to chew on, something that's great to think about for your exams. Just imagine for a moment, what if the British hadn't reversed the Partition of Bengal back in 1911? Would the Lucknow Pact have ever happened? Would the Muslim League have ever felt the need to team up with Congress? Think about it. How different would the entire story of independence have been? It's a really fascinating what-if scenario, isn't it?
By the way, all the information we've covered today comes from these sources right here. They are fantastic resources, especially when you're doing your revision.
Hey, if this explainer helped you connect the dots, do me a favor and hit that like button. And of course, make sure you subscribe to Spotwork Learning because we've got a lot more content coming up designed to help you absolutely nail your exams. Thanks so much for joining me.